Welcome to the Great Detectives of Old Time Radio from Boise, Idaho. This is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram. Instagram.com/Great Detectives. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. I do want to encourage you, if you've not already, to pick up my ebooks, All I Needed to Know, I Learned from Columbo, and All I Needed to Know, I Learned from Dragnet. Each examines the careers and histories of 7 fictional detectives and policemen and life lessons that can be learned from them. They are available as audiobooks through audible.com or the Apple Store or wherever fine ebooks are sold. Well, now it is time for this week's episode of Mr. and Mrs. North. Now, after today's episode, we're going to discuss a little bit of information about the stars of the program, so you won't want to miss that. But here, from March 2nd, 1943, is the Mr. and Mrs. North episode, Murder by the Book.
Soft as the petals of gardenias, a lovely skin like yours is why romance endures. And he will whisper, I love you so very much, for you have the skin I love to touch.
The Adventures of Mr. and Mrs. North, starring Alice Frost and Joseph Curtin, and brought to you by Woodbury Cold Cream, the beauty cream for the skin you love to touch. Pam and Jerry North are house guests of Martha Gilroy, a young authoress who has invited the North to her uncle's palatial estate on Long Island for the not very subtle purpose of persuading Jerry to publish a novel. Pam and Jerry are in the upstairs sitting room.
Oh, they're so nice.
Huh? Oh, the curtains.
You know, it's really a waste, Jerry. I could have 5 satin evening gowns with the material that's in these curtains.
Yes, I suppose you could, dear.
And these drawstrings would make a perfect rope girdle. The whole effect would be Grecian.
Pam, dear, please, I want to finish this book. I'm on the last page, almost.
Oh, that's the best of all, Jerry. I couldn't stop till I'd finished.
Then will you let me...
Oh, of course, dear. I didn't mean to interrupt. I think I'd like Grecian. It's so dignified. And if you're a Greek, you have a word for everything. It was the Greeks who had a word for it, wasn't it, Jerry?
Pam, honey, please.
Oh, Jerry, just answer one question.
All right. What is it?
Would you love me if I were cold and austere, like a Greek maiden?
Pam, honey, I'd love you anyway. Even dressed in those curtains like a Greek maiden.
Jerry, you're so nice.
All right, darling. Now, just let me finish this page.
Isn't it an exciting book?
I'll say it is. You know, it's beyond me how a girl as cultured as Martha Gilroy ever dreamed up murders like this.
And it's so well written. Jerry, it'll be a bestseller.
You bet. I'm going to get this into print as fast as the type can be set. It's a gold mine.
Isn't that just the way, Jerry? A girl like Martha writing a book that'll make money, and she's got so much already she doesn't know what to do with it.
Well, she hasn't got the money, Pam. It's old Uncle Gordon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wish we could meet him. I'd just like to tell Beatrice Van Sickle that I was hobnobbing with Gordon Gilroy, the millionaire banker. Oh, she'd steam.
Well, you won't meet him on this trip. Martha said he had to go to Chicago on business.
Jerry, do you think maybe we could wangle another invitation? You know there are real silk sheets on the bed.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, come on, let's go downstairs and find Martha. She's probably anxious to hear our verdict on the book.
Oh, I told her already. When I finished reading it this afternoon.
Why, you precocious little brat.
Ouch! Jerry.
Well, come along. Let's go and tell her that I like it, too.
I'm thinking this is the library door, Mr. North.
Oh, thank you, Mrs. North. Sure, you need a map to navigate around this house.
Yes, you certainly do. Uh-huh. It's the library. Come on, Jerry. Martha said that she... Oh.
Well?
Excuse us, please. We didn't know that...
1 minute, young lady. Who are you?
Oh, Jerry.
Good evening, sir. You're Mr. Gilroy, aren't you?
Yes, I am. What's more to the point, who are you?
I'm Gerald North. This is my wife, Pamela.
How do you do?
May I ask what you're doing in my house?
Why, we were invited by your niece, Martha. We understood you were in Chicago. This is a pleasant surprise.
We have the big front bedroom and the lovely sitting room with the white satin curtains.
Oh, a party, huh? The minute my back's turned...
Well, we're not exactly party guests, Mr. Gilroy. We came on business.
Business? What business?
Your niece has written a book I'm interested in publishing.
Oh, you're the publisher, huh?
You may have read
I
it.
have
It's
not.
very good.
For your information, Mr. North, I disapprove of Martha's so-called literary efforts.
She writes very well, Mr. Gilroy.
You've read the book?
Oh, yes.
North, that book is not for publication.
But, Mr. Gilroy...
When I give an order, it's to be obeyed.
It seems to me, Mr. Gilroy, the business is between me and your niece. She wrote the book. I'm going to publish it.
And I say that you're not.
Mr. Gilroy, nobody tells me what I can and can't do.
Why, you insolent book peddler, you...
Jerry, we'd better go.
Yes, I think we'd better.
Wait a minute. I said that book is not to be published.
I beg your pardon, sir, but I say it is going to be published. Good night.
Come back here.
Jerry!
I want that manuscript. Now give it to me.
Oh,
You'd better give it to him, Jerry.
it's a little difficult to argue against a gun.
Hand it over.
All right. Here you are, sir.
No.
Look out,
Give
Jerry!
me that
Oh,
gun.
his gun!
Let go.
Oh, Jerry, be careful!
Oh.
Jerry! You've killed him.
We'll return to Mrs. North in just a moment. But first, let's listen to the story of Mary.
Mary, Mary, not contrary, never ever had a date. Mary, Mary often wondered what would be her fate. Would she be single forever? Woe, alas! Or would she hear?
Mary, darling, darling Mary, you're so lovely, marry me.
Well, things looked pretty sad for Mary. Then one day she saw the new Columbia picture, Something to Shout About, starring luscious Janet Blair. And just afterwards, as Mary was looking through a magazine, she found these words from Janet Blair bang in front of her eyes.
You'll never sigh for popularity if you follow Hollywood in our new beauty discovery, Woodbury Beauty Nightcap. This 3-minute bedtime care with Woodbury cold cream has all it takes to help skin look dazzling. I've never known any other cream so effective in giving a girl's face the luscious smoothness that makes men pay attention.
So Mary rushed out and got Woodbury cold cream. That night, she started giving her skin the Woodbury Beauty Nightcap. And listen, a certain young man Mary had been secretly adoring, who'd never noticed Mary before, suddenly looked twice, started pursuing, started wooing, and now they've named the day. Well, the moral is simple, girls. If your life is dull, manless, and dateless, doubtless it's because your skin needs the delicious smoothness that makes a man stop, look, and pursue. So,
If you want the chance to say yes to romance, if you need a plan to captivate that man, if you wish he would woo, use Woodbury too.
why don't you tonight? That's Woodbury cold cream. And now, back to Mr. and Mrs. North. 20 minutes have passed since the shooting in Gordon Gilroy's library. Police Sergeant Mullins has taken charge. The medical examiner is leaning over the body.
Doc, are you sure he's dead? Well, Sergeant, when there's no breath, no pulse, and a bullet hole, you can be sure the body's a corpse. Okay, Doc. Mr. North,
Yes, Mullins.
It's my unpleasant duty, Mr. North, on your own admission, to hold you for the murder of Gordon Gilroy.
Oh, but, Sergeant, it was an accident. Jerry didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, I know, but he's admitted to shooting. I want to warn you that anything you say will be used against you.
Just a minute, Sergeant Mullins. Jerry's just trying to protect me. I'm the one who shot Mr. Gilroy.
You?
Pam, for heaven's sake, don't complicate things anymore.
Now, don't listen to anything he says, Sergeant. When Jerry and Mr. Gilroy were fighting, the gun dropped on the floor, and I picked it up and shot him.
Pam, will you stop this melodramatic nonsense?
Oh, dear, this is terrible. Now I got to hold the both of you.
Oh, say, hey, Mullins, would you come here a minute?
Yeah, Doc. Is there any sign of life?
Well, no, there ain't that, but there's something else here.
What's that?
I just turned the body over. Look.
Oh, for crying out loud. Stabbed in the back.
Yep, that's what did it. He was knifed after he was shot, and the bullet lodged in the shoulder. But it wasn't fatal.
Where's the knife?
Well, of course, I'm just the doctor. You're the detective.
Well, thanks heavens he was stabbed. That clears Mr. and Mrs. North. Or does it? Say, Mr. North.
Yes, Mullins?
Did you use a knife on the deceased?
A knife?
A knife?
There wasn't any knife, Sergeant.
Oh, my goodness, I'm glad to hear you say that. Of course, he was stabbed to death.
Well, just a minute. I'm going, Mullins, now, and your men can take pictures.
Oh, thanks, Doc.
And if Lieutenant Weigand wants me when he gets here, I'll be at the laboratory. So long, Sergeant.
So long, Doctor.
Jerry, it must have happened while you were out calling the police, and I was getting the first aid kit from upstairs.
Yes.
How long was you out of the room?
Oh, not more than 3 or 4 minutes.
Did you see anybody drifting around the halls about then?
No, the phone's in an alcove in the hall. I could see the library door all the while. Nobody went in or out.
Jerry, the murderer must have come in those French doors.
Say, that's about the size of it. He could have come right in here and gone out again, and nobody's been the wiser.
Well, where does that door lead to, Mullins?
There's a terrace out here.
Been waiting out there while we were in here with Mr. Gilroy.
Well, we've got a job in our hands. We got to find that knife.
May I come in?
Oh, hold on now. Wait a minute. I told you to stay in the other room.
Well, I can't stay there with the servants. I'm so nervous I can't sit still.
Martha, did your uncle have any enemies who'd want him out of the way?
What do you mean?
That shot didn't kill your uncle, Martha. He was stabbed in the back.
Oh, good Lord.
Have you any idea who could have done it?
Well, I'm afraid he had a good many enemies. He was pretty ruthless in business.
Yes, I can imagine that.
Well, whoever did it knew something about the house. It was an inside job.
I suppose you're right.
Well, of course I'm right. Only somebody knowing the terrace and... Say, wait a minute. Why did you say that?
Well, it was just that nobody knew Uncle Gordon was here. He was supposed to be in Chicago. Whoever did it must have known he was in the house.
All right. Who was in the house?
Well, the servants.
And anybody else?
There's my aunt, Mrs. Gilroy.
Where is she?
I don't know. She was upstairs earlier in the evening.
You never mentioned your aunt to us, Martha.
We seldom mention her to anyone, Pam. She walked out on Uncle Gordon about a year ago. This afternoon, she suddenly appeared and said she wanted to talk to him and was going to wait until he came back.
I guess we'll have to look up this lady. Anybody else?
No. Oh, wait. Norman Crosby.
Who's he?
Uncle Gordon's private secretary. He must have come back with Uncle Gordon. He was supposed to go to Chicago, too.
Did you see him?
No, I didn't even know Uncle Gordon was back until after the shooting.
Well, there's another guy to round up. Where does he live?
He has a room on the ground floor in the servants' wing. And there's something you'll find out about him sooner or later. He embezzled $10,000 from Uncle Gordon.
$10,000?
Well, why didn't Gilroy turn him over to the police?
He was going to, but he couldn't afford to until after the Chicago trip because, Crosby had compiled some lists or papers.
Well, there's your motive. I'm going out and find this. Oh, Lute, I'm glad you got here.
Hello, Sergeant. Why, Pam. Jerry.
Oh,
Hello,
Bill, I'm
Bill.
so glad you got here.
Well, what's the case, Mullins?
Over here, Lute, is the body. It's Mr. Gordon Gilroy, the banker, and that guy who owns his palace.
Jerry,
Yes, Pam.
this would be a wonderful time to look for that knife. All the servants are in the next room. We could go through their things.
Oh, Pam, we can't take any chances. I'm seriously mixed up in this business, and...
Jerry, we must find that knife. There may be fingerprints.
That's Bill Weigand's job.
Now, darling, don't say another word. We're going to the servants' wing. Silly, Jerry. We don't have to knock. The servants are all in the living room.
But we can't just open doors
Here, I will.
The light's on.
Come in, Jerry, quick.
Wonder whose room this is.
It's a man's... Oh, there's a briefcase on the bed.
Now, don't open it, Pam.
I'm not going to, Jerry. I just want to see these initials. N.C.
N.C. What? Norman Crosby.
That's right, the secretary. This is his room. Now, let's see.
Let's see what?
If you were a murderer, Jerry, where would you put your knife?
Right next to my fork. Now, Pam, we haven't any right to go through a man.
There's a window seat. That'd be a dandy place. Jerry, you go through the things in that dresser, and be sure to look between the shirts. That's where I always hide things at home.
All right. The funny part is we'll probably find that darn knife.
Jerry, come here.
What?
Look, this window leads right out to the terrace. You can see the French doors to the library from here.
Well, what about it?
Well, don't you see, dear? Crosby could have climbed out this window, sneaked along the terrace, and gone through those doors into the library.
Yes, I suppose he could.
And after he'd done it, he came back here.
You're certainly putting together a wonderful case.
But, Jerry, don't you see? Everything fits. Crosby knew that Mr. Gilroy was in the library, and goodness knows he had good reason to want to get rid of him. Jerry, you're not paying a bit of attention.
Look, Pam.
What?
On the floor. There by the dresser.
Oh. Jerry, is it really blood?
Yes, I think so. Trails over to this door.
Jerry, don't open that door.
I'm afraid I must have. Look the other way, dear.
All right, Jerry. Go ahead.
Good Lord.
Is it Mr. Crosby?
Yes, Pam. He's been stabbed, too.
So you didn't hear the shot or any of the commotion here in the library, Mrs. Gilroy?
I didn't hear a thing, I tell you.
Oh, Bill, could we see you a moment?
In a second, Jerry. Come in and sit down.
Come on in, Pam.
Now, Mrs. Gilroy, you've been separated from your husband for over a year, as you say. What are you doing here in this house?
A little matter of money.
Had he been supporting you?
It wasn't support, just a slight prop. And last month it fell down. And that's what I came to see him about.
Did you know he was going to Chicago?
Not till I got here. Arthur told me when I arrived.
Arthur?
He's the butler.
Oh, yes. So you went up to your old room to wait until Gilroy came back?
That's right, Detective.
You pardon my saying so, but you're a strange woman to be married to a banker like Mr. Gilroy.
You mean he was a strange man to be married to a girl like me? And you're right. He took me out of the Follies 11 years ago. But let me tell you, brother, the dough he spent on me didn't come anywhere near paying for what I had to put up with.
What do you mean?
The conceited, double-dealing old hypocrite. I don't like to say things about the dead. But if there ever was a guy that deserved a bullet, it was Gordon Gilroy.
So you gave him one, is that it?
I'm not that crazy. He was my meal ticket.
All right, Mrs. Gilroy, excuse me a minute.
Sure. My time is your time, Detective.
You want to see me, Jerry?
Pam and I just found Crosby. He's dead.
Good night. I had him pegged for the guilty party.
That's what I told Jerry. He could have sneaked out the window. Come here, Bill. I'll show you from the French doors.
But, Pam, that whole theory's out now. He's dead.
Well, but that doesn't make any difference. He could have done it, and then somebody could have murdered him. Now, look out this door to the left, Bill.
Yes?
See that room where the light... Look! Somebody's climbing out a window.
Stop! In the name of the law!
He's starting to run.
Stop or I'll shoot!
Come on, Jerry.
Pam, stay here. That fellow may start shooting back.
No, his hands are up. Bill's got him. Hurry, Jerry. We'll miss everything.
Put up your hands now. Come down.
Lieutenant. I got nothing to do with anything that's going on in this house.
Who is it, Bill?
Two-bit racketeer known as Red Barton. What are you doing here, Red?
Nothing. Honest, I didn't take nothing.
Oh, Red. Red, are you hurt?
No, honey, no.
Well, he was shooting at you. I thought...
Wait a minute. What's this honey business?
Huh? Oh, well, you know.
No, I don't know.
Oh, Dolly and me, we've been going around together.
Oh, I see.
And what about it?
You pick nice company, Mrs. Gilroy. The kind that leaves by the window.
Sure, with the joint loaded with cops, I should stick around.
Come on. Back to the house before we freeze.
Okay, I got nothing to hide. I was just waiting for her to get finished with her power on it.
Ooh. Come along, Jerry. I'm beginning to shiver.
Just a minute, Pam.
What are you staring at?
Look. There, on the side of the building.
Where?
The rain spout.
Jerry. So that's why we couldn't find the knife.
Now, listen, Lieutenant, I don't care if you lock me up or what you do. I didn't have nothing to do
Red
with
was
this.
with me all the time. We were
Sure.
upstairs.
Quiet, both of you.
Oh, Bill, I'd like to see you.
Just a second, Jerry. I want... What's the matter? You haven't found another body, have you?
No, not yet, Bill. But we may.
Why, what's up?
Bill, when Pam and I were outside just now, we saw...
Wait, Jerry. Wasn't Mr. Gilroy's gun on the desk there?
Huh?
Well, it's gone now.
Just a minute. Jerry, when I went out after Red Barton, did Mrs. Gilroy leave this room when I did?
Oh, no. She followed us.
Bill, do you think she picked up the gun then?
Shh, Pam.
Listen carefully. I'm going to take Red into the next room and turn him over to Mullins. You follow us. I want Mrs. Gilroy to be here alone.
Oh, what do you think she'll do?
We'll see.
Jerry, Bill's setting a trap.
Well, don't spring it.
Mrs. Gilroy, you wait here.
All right, Detective.
All right, Red. You can come with me.
Sure, Lieutenant, sure. Anything you say.
Come along, Pam.
Excuse us, please, Mrs. Gilroy.
Indefinitely, dearie.
That Mrs. Gilroy. You'd think I came here to borrow a cup of sugar.
Come on, Pam. Bill's gone in the living room.
I wonder what that woman's going to do now that we... Jerry,
What is it?
look. Across the hall, behind that screen.
I can't see anything behind the screen.
In the mirror, silly.
Oh, what? It's Martha.
She's got her hat and coat on. We'd better stop her, Jerry.
Playing hide and seek, Martha?
Don't tell anyone, please. I've got to get out of this house.
You can't leave now.
If you run away, Martha, they'll suspect you.
I can't stay. Uncle Gordon's dead, and Crosby, and I'm going to be next.
Martha.
Believe me, you don't know what's going on in this house. I'm going to be next. I haven't a chance.
Martha, don't.
Come into the parlor and lie down.
You're shaking like a leaf. Now, look. There's a nice big couch. You stretch out there. You poor darling.
Now, Martha, who's frightening you?
Dolly Gilroy. She's the one who killed Uncle Gordon.
How do you know?
He wouldn't give her a divorce. She wanted to marry Red Barton.
But she wouldn't kill him.
You don't know her, Pam. She'd do anything to get what she wants.
Wait a minute, Martha. Is she the woman you had in mind when you wrote your book?
Yes. She tricked Uncle Gordon into marrying her. She spent his money like water.
Why wouldn't your uncle divorce her?
Oh, Uncle Gordon was no saint either. She had too much on him. If she were no longer his legal wife, she'd blackmail him out of every last cent. Well, he couldn't let her go for his own protection.
An awful mess.
I'm going to get Bill Weigand. He should hear this. I'll be right back.
Oh, Pam, I'm so frightened. Dolly knows I suspect her. She's going to try to put me out of the way.
Here, now, hold on, Martha.
Pam,
Here, now, lie down. Here, try to be calm. There.
Dan, would you get me some aspirin and water? I've got to have something.
Of course, dear.
Oh, thank you.
I'll be back in a jiffy. Now, you just close your eyes. Jerry will be here with Bill in a second.
Yes, all right.
Great, have a go.
Don't touch anything.
Oh, she's...
Now, steady, Pam.
All right. It's only painted.
Oh, thank goodness.
Look, Bill. The sofa, right over her head.
Bullet hole. That was a close call.
What
You're all right, dear.
She almost killed me.
She?
From the French doors. I saw the gun and I ducked.
Are you positive it was Dolly? Did you see her?
Only her hand holding the gun. I've got to get out of here. She'll kill me.
Oh, no, she won't. I'll take care of her right now.
Bill, wait a minute. Don't go.
What is it, Pam?
There's something I want to ask Martha.
What?
In that book you wrote, Martha, wasn't the character who did all the killing patterned after Dolly Gilroy?
Yes.
And one of her victims was a political boss, an unscrupulous man who controlled millions and killed others for money.
Yes.
Was that man your uncle?
No. It was just an imaginary person.
That's not the truth, Martha. That man was your uncle.
No.
Pam, I see what you mean. You're right.
Of course, Jerry. That's why Gordon Gilroy didn't want the book published.
What are you talking about?
Every crime Gordon Gilroy ever committed was described in that novel, detail by detail. It was taken from real life. Martha, you wrote that book to blackmail your own uncle.
Why, Pam!
Don't why, Pam, me. You're not as sweet as you look, Martha Gilroy.
What are you driving at?
You didn't expect your uncle back tonight, did you? And you didn't know that he was on to your blackmailing scheme until you saw him fighting with Jerry through the French doors in the library.
You're crazy.
Oh, no, I'm not. When your uncle was shot and Jerry and I left the room to get help, you saw a good chance to kill him. But you needed a weapon, a gun or a knife.
What are you...
So you grabbed the closest thing at hand, a heavy icicle hanging from the rain spout on the side of the house.
How did you... Oh, you're crazy.
You stabbed your uncle with an icicle.
No wonder we couldn't find a knife.
She broke another one off to kill Norman Crosby. He saw her go into the library with the ice dagger. She killed him to
All
stop
right.
him.
You're so smart. Figure this out. Oh, just don't move, any of you.
So you took the gun, Miss Gilroy.
A very clever observation, Lieutenant.
Martha, you can't possibly get away. Give me that gun. But don't make matters worse. You probably had a good reason for killing your uncle. The court will take things into consideration if
Yes,
you...
I had a good reason to kill him. He murdered my father. That's how he got all his money. He drove Dad to suicide and stole every cent. Gordon Gilroy, the great philanthropist.
Put down that gun.
I'm not through with it yet, Lieutenant. There's one more death on the books of the Gilroy family.
Martha,
stand back. I don't want to have to kill you.
Jerry, somebody didn't do something.
I'm the only one who can do anything, and here goes. So long, everybody. Down!
Look out, Pam.
Quick,
Ellen, quick.
Oh, don't give me that gun. Oh, stop it. Let me go. Let me go. Let me do it my own way.
Nice work, Jerry. You pulled that rug from under her just in time.
Jerry, how did you ever think of it?
Mullins, take care of Miss Gilroy.
Okay, Lute. All right, miss, come along with me.
You take the prize. How did you know Martha was the one?
Well, I knew she was lying, so I just put two and two together. Sure enough, she was the one.
How did you know she was lying? And what about?
Try to make sense, dear.
Well, it was right after somebody shot at Martha in this room. I was the first one in here, remember?
Yes?
Well, Martha said the shot came from the French doors. But when I ran in, I smelled burnt powder and saw smoke hanging in the center of the room. She stood right here in the middle of the room and fired that gun herself.
Nice going, Pam.
Poor Martha. Oh, but Jerry, now you can't publish that book.
Yep. There goes a bestseller right out the window.
Ladies, a mink coat costs a lot, but the luxurious-looking, luscious complexion that goes with it can be yours for so little. Use Woodbury cold cream. You just can't give your skin better care at any price. A test by more than 1,000 women proved that. They used Woodbury in some of the costliest creams, all in plain, unlabeled jars. And a majority preferred Woodbury cold cream. For beauty results, they found it outstanding. Now, don't be surprised. Remember, Woodbury cold cream is made by skin scientists, experts in skin care for more than 60 years. It contains 4 special softening and smoothing ingredients, plus an element that works to keep the cream in the jar pure to the last. The world's costliest creams don't bring you that. You can try wonderful Woodbury cold cream for a mere 10 cents, or buy the big economy jar. You get over 10 times as much for just 75 cents. If, after using Woodbury only 7 days, your skin isn't softer and smoother, lovelier, then return the jar to Woodbury at Cincinnati, Ohio, and you'll get twice what you paid. That's Woodbury. You'll save by switching from your expensive cream to Woodbury. Buy war stamps with that saving. Why not get Woodbury cold cream right now? Tune in again next Tuesday evening at this same time for another adventure of Mr. and Mrs. North, when a barefooted corpse manages to put his shoes on. For thrills and for laughs, be sure to listen, won't you? This is Ben Grauer saying goodnight for Woodbury Cold Cream, the beauty cream for the skin you love to touch.
This program came to you from New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Welcome back. An interesting solution, and it does explain why the uncle was so opposed to the book being published. I think I probably should have wondered more about that in the first place, but I assumed it was just social position or an attempt to control her or something like that. It is also worth noting that the title of this episode may sound familiar to some folks because it does get used in mystery circles a bit. There was a Nero Wolfe novel by Rex Stout with that title, and it was also the title of the first Columbo movie in the Mystery Wheel format, obviously after the two pilot movies. This episode predates both the Nero Wolfe book and obviously the Columbo movie. I kind of wonder if it was the earliest instance of this title being used for a mystery story, but I kind of doubt it. Well, now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our stars, and we'll start with Joseph Curtin. He had a long-running career as a radio actor. His first recorded appearance was back in 1935 on the Rudy Valley Show. And while there are surviving programs of him in other roles, Mr. and Mrs. North and the role of Jerry North really was his best-known career role. Although he did actually play Nick Charles in a 1950 Thin Man radio series for ABC, although none of those episodes survived. The very last radio episode that we have him appearing in was a 1956 episode of X-1. As the golden age of radio wound down, he retired from acting and moved back to Massachusetts and worked in the family insurance business. Alice Frost actually had the more interesting radio career. She made her radio debut in the 20s when she was 16, singing on a hometown radio station in Minneapolis. By the early 1930s, she was established in New York as a radio actress and became associated with Orson Welles. She was the second actress to play the role of Portia in Welles's stage adaptation of Julius Caesar in Modern Dress, and she also appeared in the radio miniseries adaptation he did of Les Miserables, and was one of the inaugural players on the Mercury Radio Theater. She was known in New York radio circles as the girl of 100 voices, and she had a gift for mimicry and was able to play a wide variety of different parts. And I don't think we'll actually ever know the amount of work she did in New York City, just because they were generally far less likely to credit those sort of supporting roles that she might take on. Reading about her career kind of reminds me of an East Coast Virginia Gregg, although her career started a bit earlier. She did make the transition to television, and she had a recurring role in a couple of TV programs. One was on Mama, which is one of the really early TV sitcoms. It started in 1949 and ran for 7 seasons. And then she also had a recurring role on the mid-1960s sitcom The Farmer's Daughter. And other than that, she did the typical former radio actor thing and just started doing a bunch of guest appearances in television programs ranging from Adam 12 and Bonanza to The Twilight Zone, Fantasy Island, and her last appearance was in an episode of Buck Rogers in the 25th Century in 1979. Also, I think I can safely say that Bill Weigand was played by Maurice Tarplin, who longtime listeners of the podcast will best remember as Inspector Faraday on Boston Blackie. It's worth noting that the character of Bill Weigand actually came from the original Mr. and Mrs. North novel, and was carried over to radio and later to television. Well, now we turn to listener comments and feedback, and we have a comment from Ken regarding the last episode of Mr. Chameleon, at least for now. And Ken writes, "Hi Adam, I'm bummed that you've run out of Mr. Chameleon episodes, but wowzer, that was a great one. No way would have I predicted the great man would go undercover as a gigolo for a week and still not come up with the killer. But the best part of the show was when escort agency owner Mr. Drum took a look at Dave Arnold. I only wish I could do something professional for you. There are so many lonely people adrift in the world, I might even be able to find a young lady for Detective Arnold." Dave Arnold, obviously incensed, responded, "There are plenty of dames who would like to go out with me." This is the kind of tough guy dialogue that keeps me coming back to Mr. Chameleon. Keep up the good work, Adam. Well, thank you so much, Ken, and I have really enjoyed your thoughts on Mr. Chameleon, and I hope some other series that we do will also spark your interest. Well, now it is time for us to go ahead and thank our Patreon supporter of the day, and I want to thank Shannon. Shannon's been one of our Patreon supporters since January 2023, currently supporting the podcast at the Shamus level of $4 or more per month. Thank you so much for your support, Shannon. And that will actually do it for today. If you're enjoying the podcast, please follow us using your favorite podcast software. And if you're enjoying this podcast on YouTube, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and mark the notification bell. We'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Mr. and Mrs. North. But join us back here tomorrow for yours truly, Johnny Dollar, where
I paid off the $60,000 to my feline friend, Felicity.
What $60,000 to Felicity?
What do you think? The $60,000 Felicity inherited from Mrs. Hammermeyer.
And who is Mrs.
Was.
All right, was Mrs. Hammermeyer.
A client of Henry Parker's. Had a life policy for $60,000. Felicity was the beneficiary.
But didn't she have any children or relatives?
She had one brother, a nephew, and a niece. Oh, of course, not counting Mrs. Hawkins, who was Mrs. Hammermeyer's best friend. You see, the two ladies lived together 15 years. Right now, Mrs. Hawkins has been appointed trustee to administer the $60,000 as Felicity needs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you'll meet her as soon as we get settled.
Jediah, what makes you think someone's trying to kill that guy?
I don't think so. I know it. There have been 2 attempts in 2 weeks.
I hope you'll be with us then. In the meantime, send your comments to box13@greatdetectives.net. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Detectives and check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/greatdetectives. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.